A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. The people who walk in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those who dwell in the land of gloom, a light has shone. You have brought them abundant joy and great rejoicing. And they rejoice before you as at the harvest, as people making merry when dividing spoils. For the yoke that burdened them, the pole on their shoulder, and the rod of their taskmaster you have smashed. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The poet Wendell Berry reflects that for parents, the only way is hard. We who give life give pain. There is no help. Yet we who give pain give love. By pain, we learn the extremity of love. What Wendell Berry is saying is that all love requires sacrifice. And with that sacrifice, there is inevitable pain. To reject sacrifice as the condition for the possibility of love is to live an essentially loveless existence. Wendell Berry continues his reflection with this insight. I read of Christ crucified, the only begotten Son, sacrificed to flesh and time and all our woe. He died and rose, but who does not tremble for his pain and loneliness and the darkness of the 6th hour? Unless we grieve like Mary at his grave, giving him up as lost, no Easter morning comes. You see, the great mystery of the Incarnation is that God so desires to be in communion with us that he allows himself to enter into the saddest and most difficult events of life. Christ does not exempt himself from the painful experiences of human existence. The Incarnation is real. It happens in real flesh and blood. And it involves real love and therefore very real pain. The Incarnation demanded the cooperation of human persons to make it possible. If Christ was going to be born into our flesh, he'd have to have a mother. And as Catholics, we believe that the Mother of God accepted the gift of the Incarnation in a way that was totally singular and unique. God, in Christ, entered into her life with a depth and intimacy that not even those angels closest to the throne of God have known. Now, to the worldly minded, such proximity to divine power should mean power, privilege, and personal glory. But none of these things were offered, and none would have been accepted. Such was the humility of the one who would be the Mother of God. What the Mother of God did accept was the gift of being able to love God as a mother loves her only beloved Son. But this would mean, as it does for all mothers, a sacrifice. Such love would engender pain. To give God his flesh from her flesh would mean that God would make his way into our world as vulnerable as we are. His joy would be her joy, but his suffering would be her suffering as well. She could not protect him from the suffering and death that would be his mission. So this is essentially the meaning of the presentation of the Mother of God as Our Lady of Sorrows. It is such a dramatic display to us of the full implications of the Incarnation for the woman who loved him most in all the world. And we make a mistake if we think that because Mary is the Mother of God, that this somehow meant that she has escaped the more painful experiences of life. In fact, I think it's better to think that because of the depth of her relationship with Christ, the sad facts of life were enhanced for her rather than dulled. She experienced life knowing the full cost of humanity's refusal to love, and she saw for herself the terrible cost in the manner that her beloved Son suffered and died. And yet, all the while, in the midst of the painful way of the cross, she trusted that God was present, even if such a presence could not be felt or offered little in the way of relief or consolation. Now, each of us will at some point of our lives experience a similar desolation. Like the Mother of God, the events and circumstances of life will offer us not only love, but there's definitely going to be sorrow. And in these moments, the witness of the Mother of Sorrows will demonstrate to us that genuine faith is not merely a comfort, a crutch, or a diversion. Faith in Christ doesn't bring with it the exemption from the reality of our existence, but grants us access to the divine life in all things, even suffering and even death. And it is precisely through these experiences that we come to learn and to know the extremity of true love.